Estate Agency X, the UK's #1 estate agency podcast discussing the future of estate agency, entrepreneurship and business, hosts Mark Burgess and Rob Brady.
So just to give you a background on all the four that are coming up. So Daren Cope is co-owner of Cope & Co. Professional properties before, rebranded, if you know, in the industry for quite a few years. They've got a massive lettings book in Derby, got a sales arm, so I've gone through that co-rebranding of all of it. So great background story, great team as well. So his son's James in the room as well, as a part of the whole family-run business there. So great knowledge on what we're about to be talking about. Sarah Driscoll, she was an awesome guest on our podcast if you haven't listened to her. She's from M&M Estate Agency in sort of North Kent. She works a couple of days a week within the business, and she's got a team that runs it for her as well. So she very much works on the business plenty of the time. So great knowledge on that one. Dave Gibbons, I've known Dave personally, so I'd be a bit more abusive of him. Dave just runs random businesses, sends me random messages in his ice tub. But it's got a really successful brand called Courtyard up north near Warrington. I call him the Wolf of Warrington. Really good brand, really good business. And again, he's stood up on top of it, and he's got the guys working there in that. So another sort of great experience on that one. And then I've thrown a curveball into it, the self-employed estate agency world. Boo, some of you guys in the room. Holly Boylan, Operations Director at The Avenue. I've personally worked with Holly for quite a few years now, and a lot of their members of their team. So Holly brings a different perspective, because she works from an ops perspective just in The Avenue, but also with all the start-up, self-employed people that are coming to them, and the people who've been with them for years. So she helps and coaches them as well. So very much a different perspective on the panel on how she supports those people. So if you guys would like to come up to the stage, I welcome you guys to the stage. So, this one, building a business that doesn't rely on you. How many people in the room actually still sit in their business? So we've got about 75%. So the idea of today's panel on this one is just really to get an idea of, if you are in that position, how do you get to that position further? I know we had that just before lunch break about some of the questions that are asked. So sort of the knowledge on here. Mark, have you got anything you wanted to ask immediately? Because I know what you're like.
Why didn't we get popcorn? Yeah, okay. My first question then, because a few people spoke to me about it at the lunch break. The panel that was up here before, when you listen to them, like I was saying when I sort of grabbed the mic, it sounds like they kind of got it all together and like life's just fucking great for them. So when a business owner is saying to you, like, or is telling you that problem of like, yeah, I don't have time to do that because I'm sort of, I have to get involved because if I don't, like, you know, the team won't necessarily do it the way that I wanted it done. What advice would you give that person from the point of view of running a business whereby you're not doing that anymore? Should we start down that end with you, Daren?
I think it's all about empowering your team. I sort of liken a lot of things to to football teams, as my staff will know. And if you listen to managers, sometimes they say be brave on the ball. I mean, what does that mean? It basically means don't be afraid of making an odd mistake. Try to do stuff that other people don't do, and just make that decision yourself instead of feeling as though you've got to ask somebody else or pass it over to somebody else. Because 9 times out of 10, they're right. You know, it's like what would you do in that situation? And 9 times out of 10, they do exactly what we'd do. So, but it's giving them that ability and responsibility to just go ahead and do it, which is hard because it's not sometimes exactly how you do it, but you get there.
Yeah. Just before I come to you on it, Sarah, like, do you think that that's difficult without having a clear identity to the business? Because, you know, if you don't have a clear vision and goal and identity to the business, and you empower people to make their own decisions, then it's very much like a personal choice all of a sudden, isn't it? Like, I don't know, let's take something basic like whether we should cut our fees if somebody, you know, if there's no overriding guidance on that, then like it's hard for the person to feel like they're not going to get in trouble for this. So I don't know, how do you find that?
Well, it's all about what the guys were saying before lunch. It's your culture, it's your core values, and I think if those are in place and everybody goes along with that and they buy into that, they'll understand that they can do that to make those decisions. All right, we give them parameters with fees and things like that, but it's not like, oh, such and such said, you know, you need to reduce his fee or else he's leaving. So you deal with it. You make the decision and leave it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, I think you basically need to make the decision of what you want to do, i.e. how much you do or don't want to be in the business. You need to set a date and you need to commit. So, and that commitment, you need to tell people in your business, this is the date, I'm looking to change my role within the business and I'm going to change it when we return after Christmas. So everyone in your business knows that's what you're going to do. You've committed it, you've said it out loud. Over the next 2 or 3 months, you think, okay, well, what do I currently do? So for the next month, write a job description for yourself, what you currently do in your business, every single day, what you're doing. There'll be a whole raft of stuff, which is a load of rubbish that you can give to someone else. You don't need to be sorting out the keys. You don't need to be confirming that viewing. There's loads of stuff that you currently do you don't need to. So write a list of everything you're doing every single day. Get your staff members to do the exact same thing. This isn't about, and I would sell it, that this is not about me checking what you're doing. This is about all of us trying to be as efficient as we possibly can be and nail it as we go into 2026. So you do that for a month, you sit down, and then you're going to say, okay, right, is everyone's roles as it should be? Are we all doing the same thing? Are we all trying to do everything within the office? And think about what you actually want to do. What do you want to do? So yes, I'm only in the office 3 days a week. I work school hours. That's what I do, and people run the business for me. But for lots of you might be like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to be in there 5 days a week, I want to work 7 days a week, I love it. But what is the job you want to do? Decide that and then recruit someone to do the other stuff, the stuff that you then don't have time to do. And by getting everyone else to write a job description, you'll say, okay, well, this is the processes. These are the key processes that we cannot move away from, i.e. your main booking a vow. We've spoken about booking vows and actually either one, automating that process, or if you don't want to automate it, think, okay, well, what needs to happen within that process that we don't deviate from? You then write a blueprint of this is what happens during that process, and then that's how everyone has their key job roles. You end up with your key job role in terms of this is what I'm doing within the business. In January 2026, you rock up, you've employed somebody else to do the job you're doing now, and then you do the job which is working on the business. I mean, that's what I would say. I mean,
make it sound so easy.
Well, there's a massive financial impact as well, and we spoke about that on the podcast. It's really easy to say, employ someone else, and I'm sure lots of people are thinking, oh, great, well, I've got to find the money to employ someone else. I think with any decision that you have to make, and a life goal, you're talking about all of our lives, that this is a life goal, you're thinking about where do I want my life to be, what do I want it to look like, there are also always going to be tough decisions. I ended up here because I had 3 children, and it was, well, there's no choice, find a way. When you have kids, it's the same as having a business. For most people who are primary caregivers or whatever, men or women, that take time off, what they end up doing is taking a pay cut. Like, let's be honest, you take a pay cut, you have to, for 6 months, take a pay cut, you make it work. It might be for lots of you think, okay, fine, what I'm going to do is end up taking a pay cut, employing someone else. It's going to be really tough for me for 6 months, but in that 6 months, I will make it work based on that salary. The person I employ has to get X amount in. This is what we're looking to do. We need to grow by X. That then means after 6 months, my salary goes back up. They're fine. And then you can start saying, okay, we'll build on it. And I think that's always the hard thing. It's the financial aspect of saying, I'm going to employ someone else. Yeah. And that's going to cost me money.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Goes back to the revenue per employee, right? Most people have got a business whereby if they took themselves out, they'd have to employ someone on that salary. There'd be nothing left for them.
Yeah.
You've got to raise the revenue per employee.
Which is
Like
hard.
when you got involved in it, Dave, when you got involved in a state agency, I know you'd run other businesses and been involved in other sectors, and I know we've spoken a few times about where you was like, what the fuck's going on here? So just talk us through that a little bit.
So really, I think initially it comes with a clear goal of where you want to go, what you want to achieve as a business owner. And I think that is the starting point. Once you've got that, then it's about cutting down the moving parts within your business. So things like calling up the vowels. Find out what's really, really important. It may shock you to know that we don't do any KPIs. I've got one target in my place. It's the number of listings that you get. That's it. If you get that number of listings, then I'll help you get there. But that's the only target that there is. So I find that the business itself is really, really easy, but you've got to have a clear view of where you're going, then set out the expectations. And what I did is I sat down with the team member that was effectively going to take my role over within the 6-month period and sit down with them and actually go through it on a day-to-day basis. My job for 6 months was to mirror that person until I felt comfortable enough that I could go down to not going in on Fridays, not going in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not going in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then that's it. So my role now is literally I come in on a Monday morning, we have our 2-year plan, we look at the 2-year plan, we break it down and we see how well are we getting there. That's the only thing I'm interested in, and that is the way that I do it. I think it's very simple. You have to hire somebody, if you've not got them in your team, that's either as good as you or preferably fucking better than you, in all honesty. Pay them and get it done. But when you're looking at businesses, I think the way to look at it is you've got an area you want to go to. Your job is to figure out, how can I get there, make this a success while I'm sat at home on the couch? And it's easily doable. You just have to change your mindset as opposed to the road you're going down.
Yeah, it's crazy, really, isn't it? Because whenever anyone starts a business, I guess if you got them at that point and said to them, would you hope one day that like you just don't have to do anything? They'd go, yeah. But then like as you get more and more into the business, people get a bit scared about not being needed. It's almost like I'm going to do this then. I'm going to do that. And like Sarah was just saying, like if you made a list of all the things you're doing, it's like you're just doing like loads of admin. So Holly, from your perspective, I know obviously you're dealing with agents and also you running the actual brand itself, and just focus on the brand side of it for a minute, because there'll be people in here that are either running self-employed models or are considering taking on self-employed agents, that sort of thing. The traditional model of a estate agency, the one that we've spoken about a lot, whereby everyone's doing a bit of everything, and it'd be hard to take a self-employed agent on in that model and for them to feel like this was a smooth running machine, because everything would just be all a bit up in the air, like the brand, the organisation, who's chasing the leads, who's doing sales progression. So how have you gone about the process of trying to build a brand whereby it does have that structure, so a self-employed person could come and do their everyday work without needing to think about how does the brand work, how does the operations work, all of that sort of thing?
I think the key thing is providing the clarity. So if they have questions, go through those questions, note down what you keep getting asked, provide a process for that, remind the staff, because I think those business owners too will need to get to that point of thinking, I can't do everything in the self-employed entity that I've built. But the truth of it is that when we talk about making that decision, a lot of people don't want to make that decision, because the hard truth of it is that they want to be the hero. They want to be the one, only Holly can do that, only Jack can do that. But that's because you want to feel good in what you contribute. But removing that need for like firefighting allows you to do more and progress quicker, but also get more back. Because I think there will be a period where you enjoy doing everything because it's your new business, it's your new purpose, but you will start to resent your own business and just work a job in your business. The delegation is not about handling off tasks, it's about handling off outcomes, and that provides clarity, but you need to know what clarity looks like. So if you're unsure, you need to go back to, okay, am I just wanting to be the hero? Which there is places in business for that, but you just need someone else to provide the clarity.
Yeah, that's funny. It reminds me of like, you know, when you're in junior school and like someone's crying and they tell you, and then everyone's like, well, why are they crying? You're like, only I know. Like, just leave him alone. Only I know. Yeah. That's like the business owners, isn't it? Stop asking him. Only I know the reason. Just leave him alone.
But sometimes even if you don't know the answer to the question, it's really nice as a team to say, actually, that's a really good point. How does everyone feel that should work? Because a lot of the time, I'm not on the ground doing this. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think would work? And just because I've put a process in place, or that process was put in place 2 years ago, is it still working? Does that still work in what we're doing now? Because if it doesn't, what's the point in doing it?
Absolutely. I mean, how many times do you find in business whereby, like you say, a process was put in place at some point, probably by one of us, and someone's doing something that's not quite right, and you're like, why are you doing it like that? Well, the process says, you're like, I don't give a fuck. I don't even know who wrote this process. Did I write it? I couldn't give a shit. Like, switch your brain on. And there's a level up above that whereby like the whole company's got to run that way, hasn't it? Whereby you as a leader have to get comfortable with, you haven't got all the answers, and I'm perfectly comfortable going to my team going like, I don't fucking know. Why would I know? I mean, I employed you to do that, so can you figure it out? I mean, I could go and figure it out, but then what do I need you for? So, Rob?
About 8 of my questions have already been answered already. So
I can just keep going.
No. Trust me, I was about to say, like, the only actually one I was going to come back with is freedom looks like different things to different people. So what does freedom look like for you, each of you right now? Because you're all at different stages.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if the self-employed agents need me, I'm their bottleneck. So what good is that? Because I have annual leave, I switch off. So that them having that assurance allows them to have freedom as well to do things when they want on their time scales, but it doesn't rely on me so then I can say to them, while you're learning and executing these processes, this is how we're going to drive the business forward, this is how we're going to innovate next year, this is how we're going to try and earn you more money, because they all want the same things but they want it approached differently, and I think you have to recognise that no matter what sort of business operation that you're in.
Question back on that, you know, you do like an onboarding process with your and they come usually from a machine, inside a machine, a part of a cog or a part of a bigger network. And then they want to inspire to obviously be that new role. So like, what do you find in those sort of 2 weeks is like the fundamental transitions you see in how they operate coming out the other side?
It is the mindset, because, you know, most of them are more seasoned agents than I ever was. And I'm not trying to compete on that entity. They are better agents than I ever was. But what they need is to open the mindset of, this is what's possible. You don't need cheap fees. You don't need volume, but do it on your terms. Some of them have aspirations to have staff underneath them and grow bigger businesses. But some of them just want a nice work-life balance. I know Mark said not to mention that earlier, but it is possible for what they are trying to achieve. And that onboarding process is not about teaching them how to suck eggs or a estate agency, but it's about setting them up for success so they don't need me at every moment. They've got that foundation.
Perfect. Dave, what does freedom look like to you, mate?
I don't have to go into work ever, and my bills still get paid, and I still go on holiday, still play golf and do all the things that I want to do. That's exactly what it looks like to me, mate.
He knows.
Actually, no. I'd like to come back to Dave on that one, because I've known Dave for quite a few years, and Dave's got a great backstory, and obviously there was a transition period where you had that, I need to be on my business all the time. And then when you stopped doing that, you had this void. What do I do now? So like, what's that process look like for you? Because you've almost stepped into more of a mentorship role, supporting others out there.
Yeah. In all honesty, the hardest thing, I thought work was hard. I thought managing companies was hard, and dealing with people was hard. Dealing with having nothing to do when everybody else is working is horrible. It's really horrible. And you find yourself very bored, very lost, and very lonely.
You can go back.
I don't want to go back either. So what you have to do is you have to find things that you're going to go down. I made the mistake of when I exited that I did nothing. I didn't really know what I was going to do. The end goal was, that was the kind of finish line, and I didn't know what it looked like after that. It's like I'd made it when I'd got to that point. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, this is a bit shit. So you've got to plan for what you want to do going forward. That's what I would say. It's hugely important. Otherwise, you'll find a huge void in your life, which is something that I personally have gone through, and it's not a nice experience.
I mean, in terms of what it looks like for me from the outside, yeah, you know, work for all intents and purposes part-time, I suppose, and school time. But I love the business. I love the business. I love what the business is. I would go in and do the job. I would, because I love the job. And when I need to do it, sometimes actually don't, so I do need to do it sometimes if I've got people on holiday or something happens and I think, oh, I'll do that. And I love it. But it's about thinking from my perspective, whatever point anyone is in their lives or in their business, like you say, what works for you. So at this point in time, I would be a really crap estate agent because my biggest flex is that no one would come to me to ask a question about what was happening in the business because I don't know. Somebody else knows that. I don't know what we've got on the market. I don't know any of those things. I don't know it, which is great at the moment for me. In the future, that's not to say that I don't want to be a lot more involved, but at the moment where my life is, this works for me. I still love going in and it works. And I can take summer holidays off and that sort of thing. And I hope to always be able to take holidays and do that. But I think it really just depends on where you are in your life and what you want to do. And then you make it work for you, really. And at the moment, at this point, it works for me based on what I've set up at this point in my life.
I think before Mark got on stage this morning and said what he said about forget work-life balance, you're going to be in it for forever for the next year or whatever. My answer would have been the same as Dave's, but mine would be walking my dogs and going on holiday and all that sort of thing. But I am still involved to a degree and sort of I sort of pick and choose what I do. I do all the financial stuff because I'm an accountant, so I sort of do that, and it gives me a really good handle of what's going on. And I just get involved when I feel as though I need to get involved, but I don't want to. So I think there's sort of mental freedom and physical freedom, isn't there? It's not doing a role, but it's freedom in your mind that role's being done. So they are two separate things. I mean, Rob said my other three directors are my wife, my son, and my daughter. So having that dynamic where you know that they've got your back, even though it can get a bit touchy sometimes, but we can get over it fairly quickly. So that's quite difficult. And so it's me and my wife that are sort of taking a step back, and it's James and Annie who are sort of taking that business forward. So we're there to support them, and it's all about support, isn't it? It's all about leading them, leading by example, supporting them in whatever they want to ask, but also letting them get on with it as well. You know, you've got to do that because they'll do it in different ways.
I think a lot of people would be listening, thinking with this panel and with the last panel, how have you managed to find these staff that can do this shit? Like, because, you know, that's what a lot of people say, isn't it? Like, just finding good staff is just so hard. And like, I was talking to someone just before we came back in, and I was thinking back to when I felt like that with my company 10 years ago. How have you? I don't know. How do you view that? How do you solve that problem?
I just sort of pick on something that you were talking about early on about, you know, well, you find the things you don't want to do and employ somebody to do it. We had a situation a couple of months ago where we had one of the lettings negotiators handed a notice in, and it was like, oh my God, we need to employ somebody really quickly. And I'm sure we've all done it in the past where you've made a bad choice. You just want to get a sort of arse on a chair just to fill the gap and answer the phones and all that. And I said, just hold on, because we've been working on a lot of efficiencies recently. I said, just hold on, let's not panic. Let's give it time. And we've got a bonus structure within the letting side that it's all on income. Everybody knows every penny of income. All the staff know every penny of income that's coming into the business. So they have a monthly income target. And anything over that target, we split with the staff 50-50. So we'll keep 50%, 50% get split between however many number of staff there are. So if you cut down on your number of staff, they get a bigger bonus because it's the same amount being shared out. So I said, just hold on. Anyway, we're 2 months down the line. We haven't employed anybody else to replace her. And the business has gone up because they've become more efficient themselves. So it's not all about having to replace if somebody leaves and feel as though you need to replace really quickly. It's giving them chance to step up, take more responsibility, do more things, make the job more efficient.
I mean, there's a whole, the way business runs now and how we all want business interactions to happen is just at different times, and all our lives are very different. So lots of my staff are all mothers. They work school hours. I have full-time staff as well. But for them, that flexibility, so when you said, where do you find your staff? I find my staff of people that are highly, they're skilled people that have had jobs previously and just need that flexibility. So for a start, for the majority of them, they're thankful to have a job that fits in with the pickups and the drop-offs and everything else. And I think it's very different if you've got a letting side of your business to a sales one. We were talking about this before I came on, is that there's lots of talk up here about like drive and like values, and whilst we have values within the business, my lettings team is completely different to my sales team. That lettings team is like, it's so process focused, it's so admin focused, all of those things. Those things don't need to be done from 9 till 6 every day. They can be done from 10 till 4 or whatever is needed. So it's also thinking about the jobs that need to be done, the times that they need to do them, and fitting somebody that fits that, because they might not be the person you initially think would be great, but actually that can work.
I would say pay them. So I think in a estate agency and the way that a lot of the traditional setup is done with loads of moving parts, they're all admin parts and they're all at like 30 grand a year for the most part. And in all honesty, good salespeople want a hell of a lot more money than that, which is why you find them in other industries. So if you're going to do it, look at the moving parts, like I said at the beginning. Try and cut your staff down from 10 to 6 really, really good ones. And then when you find the predecessor or the person who you're going to hand it over to, I always find it really important that they've got skin in the game. So when it comes to the final exit, look at share options with the people you're going to be sending over. So with all of the businesses that I own, I sit down more now as an investor than a business owner or running it. And all of the managing directors and the people in key positions have got shares within the company, because I certainly wouldn't do it unless I had skin in the game. So I wouldn't expect anybody else to. So I think it's about looking at how you do things. And when I look at a estate agency, really, I can see kind of like one key role is direction, but that can be anybody outside of industry. And then you've got the valuers. And outside the valuers, pretty much with a bit of training, anybody can do that job as long as you've not got someone whose head's completely fallen off. So invest in the right people for the business, carry them along the journey and pay them.
I echo that really well, because obviously I'm employed, but the way that I look at it is we had to recruit this year for a replacement marketing team. So it was 2 at the same time. The recruitment process was timely. I don't like the interview section, but I don't have an interview structure. I kind of go on gut. I go on vibe, but also I want to know what their drivers are, because if I know what their drivers are, I can then look after them in a way that empowers them to what drives them. And at the end of the day, like, work is a large proportion of your life, but it's not going to be everything. So if they feel valued, they feel appreciated, and they feel empowered, they will go to the ends of the earth for you. And that kind of builds that culture, that loyalty, but also that bond. You might see someone as like, they're a great person, they've got a lot of expertise, but I can't imagine myself working with them. Well, don't employ them, because you will never overcome that. They will have a space in another business that will work really well. But we look quite a lot with our employed staff on disc. So we're quite fortunate that we've got someone kind of in each corner, so we can kind of understand how the messaging needs to be for where it makes sense to them. Because at the end of the day, my leaders know my drivers and they know how to empower me. So I want to do that with the other staff. And I think that's the biggest important part.
Yeah, I think even as a business owner myself, you just keep recruiting people going, hope they're good, hope they figure all that stuff out. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it generally starts to fall down, isn't it? Like there's no structure here. You set up to fail from the beginning.
I've got one here. So we've all had moments where stepping back has not gone to plan. So how have you navigated a shift from being when you've had like a hardest journey of something that's gone through, and what was the course of correction afterwards?
Anyone got that one then?
Yeah, I think I look back and I've failed so many times. But at the end of the day, my leaders treated me as, I know you had the best intention, we can fix it. We don't work in a life or death business. Like, it's not that crucial that day. Of course, we've got clients and we need to make sure that they're getting the best experience possible. But at the end of the day, you might learn something from their mistake that they've made of why it's on us. I always look at it that that's our fault as leadership. They've made that pitfall. So how can I prevent that next time? But also put your arm around them and kind of say, that's okay, we can fix it. And if you protect them, they're more likely to push themselves to grow as well, because they're not scared of what if it goes wrong. So you kind of have to let them have that energy, but also remind yourself why you're doing it. I'm doing this to grow the business. I'm handing off this task so I can drive it forward. Otherwise, they'll hit a ceiling and you won't be able to pay them anymore anyway, because the business will be stagnant. So you've got to make that fork in the road, I think.
Anyone else?
Probably the biggest mistake we've spoken about a lot is recruiting wrong and not acting quick enough to get rid of the mistake you've made. And I did that. Having done that, I now react a lot quicker, because you do know. And I think somebody said about, how do you feel about, you've made the mistake, you've employed the crap person. And I'm like, some people interview really well. And then they're just not the person. You've really oversold yourself. So I now, if you vote, you very quickly know whether you've made a bad choice or not. And I think it's about nipping in the bud very quickly and saying, look, no matter what it is, it's early days, this clearly isn't working out, this expectation or whatever it may be.
And Sarah, how early? Because I speak to
1 hour.
I know that's what I mean. I speak to agency owners who are like, give me another couple of weeks, and it's like, hang on, it's been like 3 months now.
Well, yeah, I mean, in fairness, some people that start, we employ some apprentices as well, and they can often be really quite quiet and quite reserved because this is their first job. So I give a lot more leeway to, and obviously the jobs that they're doing have a lot less of, importance, as it were, and they're really building their confidence. So within sort of really 6 months, a year, I have an apprentice, and all of our apprentices in the end, bar sort of a couple, have continued to work for us because it's more of a confidence experience, life experience thing. So that's very different to when you're employing somebody for a particular role. They've sold themselves within that interview. The particular mistake that I made, I didn't act quick enough because I felt at the time, oh my goodness, what am I going to do though when this person goes? As it was, them leaving was the best thing that could have possibly happened in terms of where we are now. I do believe things happen for a reason, and that really was something that was a massive, massive impact on me, just the whole process and them leaving, but it did work out.
I think it's like Daren said, like what happened with his lettings person, often you're left in a situation whereby you're thinking like, I would like to change this, but I can't afford to lose this person. But ultimately it's better to have a hole than an arsehole.
Yeah, and the impact they have on the rest of your team is massive.
Yeah.
I think I've got...
But just on that, while you're looking for another question, like when you make a mistake with hiring, there's two ways of looking at it, I think, because if you don't have much structure in your business, you don't have, I know it's been an overused term in the last couple of panels, but core values and vision and mission and documentation and a clear process, and you're able to really tell someone what the rules of the game are when they come for an interview and all of that. So if you don't have all of that, then you hire people and it doesn't work out. You end up going like, that person was a bit of an arsehole, like they kind of lied to me and and it drags on a bit and like all of that sort of stuff. When you do have all that stuff and you hire the wrong person, it's all on them really, and there's no awkwardness. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like having all that stuff, it's really awkward. You leave it and it builds up in your head, and it's like the spider under the bed that Shane was talking about, and eventually you just explode and lose your shit and seem like you've overreacted. But like once you have all that stuff and you can explain it to somebody clear at an interview, and you can say to them, this is how it works at this company, I'm being very clear with you because I don't want to missell it to you, This is how our core values work. Iceberg. We have an expert. Be an expert. I expect you to do self-development. Be committed. I expect commitment. In return, I'll give you unlimited holidays. I expect you to be connected with the team, work with other people, and stay part of everything. And very, very clear on it. If after a week, a month, whatever it might be, even in many times has been after a day, you can see you just totally ignored everything I fucking said to you. And it becomes really easy, like Matt was saying, to hug someone on the way out and go, this just ain't going to work out. I mean, you seem a nice person, but it's not going to work out here, so good luck. And it just becomes easier as a leader to make those decisions, doesn't it? When you know, I told you what the rules of the game were. I couldn't have been any clearer about it. And clearly, you weren't listening because you just wanted a job, fair enough, but there shouldn't be any, misunderstanding about this.
You sometimes if you've made the wrong hire, you're sometimes trying to convince yourself that you can turn it round, or maybe another couple of weeks, but deep down you just know, and you can't hang around. You just got to do it.
I think hiring people for a solution that you're looking for as well. So don't just hire people for the sake of having numbers on seats. What jobs do you need doing as a business owner? And you'll probably find that a lot of the time you can outsource that, which is brilliant as long as you can find a good outsourced company, because it takes away the moving parts from your company. You want your company lean. You want it small numbers of people in there that really know how to do their jobs effectively and well and give the great customer service so you get it coming back. So, yeah.
I've actually got a good story, actually. A couple of guys in the room today, actually. We only had a session yesterday, our refocus session. And in our performance session, we did a Eisenhower matrix, 4D matrix. And they assessed what their working week was like as owners. And they realised a load of it was just admin stuff. And they've got an admin team. And they soon realised afterwards, actually, we just give this to the admin team. And then sort of the last week or so, they've been like, there's so much more time. We've now got to actually move the business forward. But just analysing that is a key one. Talking on that, so systems and structures are key. So what's the single most important system or process that you've put in place to allow you to step back?
I don't think there is one. I think all processes that work really well and are as important to each other, even the small ones. The biggest single thing that we did after we attended the accelerator program is take a step back and review all your processes and all your systems. That's the one single thing you can do, and it really takes time. I think Mark's suggestion at the time was, that lining paper, that wallpaper you can get, just put it over a long 8-foot table and go with post-it notes from right at the start to right at the end, and then digitalise it, put it into a document, and do it on every single process that you've got. That would be the most important thing that we did. It's not just updating one process or system. It was everything.
I think initially, for me, it was writing people's job descriptions and roles, so everyone wasn't doing everything, because everyone was doing a job not great as opposed to nailing a small aspect of it. And I don't think you can do everything. You've got to do something really well, not half-ass everything. And that was one of the main things. Obviously, we've got loads of different processes that now people within those roles have to follow and do, but you need to be really clear. Don't try and help someone else. In the end, it doesn't help them. You've just mucked up what it is that they do that well. Don't try and help. Let them do their job and you do yours.
And for me, the fundamental is a clear guide to where you're going. I think it's really important as business owners, we know exactly where we're going to, because if you don't know where you're going to go, how can you write the map to that? How do you know what's going to be involved along that, what potholes you're going to find along the way, when you're going to find them potholes? So if you don't have a clear, structured plan of where you're going and what it means to you and why you're the kind of person that should be doing that in the first place, you're going to be fighting a losing battle, and you'll find that you're running around like headless chickens doing absolutely nothing productive.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it earlier, but at the Avenue, our onboarding process for the agents is probably the best thing that we've ever done. But also, it's I'm open to feedback with it. Every time I do one, I change it, I move something, I take in that feedback, and I'm constantly looking at it on like day 3 of 5. No, next time I'm doing it like this, because I always want to evolve it, but make it simpler. It's not about adding more things in, it's taking out as much as possible that's not needed, and then making sure the crucial bits get like the light that they need. That's been a game changer for us.
I can give you a good example as well of something that maybe might resonate with some people in the room. So when we went through this process of trying to make our company run like a machine, it was one thing happened whereby we took on a new member of staff, and they turned up when we used to have offices. They turned up at the office, and I'm sure you all can be familiar with that moment whereby you're like, oh, John's here. Shit, it's like John's first day. Just hold on a minute, sit there for a minute, like, and I'm just in the middle of something, and then we'll get you something to do, like just make yourself at home, have a cup of tea or something, right? And I was sitting there and I watched this happen and thought to myself, what a shit first day for John. Like, it wouldn't take me that long to sit down and work out the process of how to make John's first day fucking phenomenal. You know, and I sat with Hayley, and it probably took us, I reckon, about an hour, maybe 2, to map out how someone's first week at Iceberg would go, so that it was just phenomenal. And at the end of it, like, they'd have a balloon in a box delivered to their house and all of this stuff. And then, like, you know, Hayley, being as efficient as she is, just put in the process. An hour after that, it was done, and it just worked like a machine. And it's like that with everything in the business, really. You know, you start a business, you're just trying to make a bit of money, and then it snowballs into being a bit more successful. But if you stop and look back for a minute, and you'll just look around at your business and go, it's really just running like it was when it was just me. Should we systemize some of this? And then all of a sudden, like, you don't have to remember what happens when somebody is going to start, because the process just kicks in. As soon as there's we've hired this person, someone in the company goes, great, I'll start putting this in place then. And they have a phenomenal first week. And so I think it's just that on a bigger scale. As you start looking at all the aspects of the business, you start going, there's not actually any process here, is there? I mean, by some fluke, we seem to do this thing quite well, but no one knows how it works.
But if you do put in the process, you've got to make sure you check, because your biggest risk, I would say, is the difference between what you think your staff are doing and what they're actually doing. And just because you've said to them, this is the process, this is what you should follow, doesn't mean they're actually doing that. So you need to go back to that. And one of your biggest roles, and again, you don't want to be saying you're checking up on them, what you're doing is just reviewing this process to make sure it's still working for you and it's working for me. I can see that that's not happening. Is there any reason for that? Do we need to change that? It's about talking to them in that respect of, this has been put in place for a reason. Clearly, you must now think that reason doesn't apply, so let's talk about that, because maybe it doesn't. Oh, no, it still does, so you've still got to do it, and we'll look at that again next week. And then if it's somebody that's consistently not doing what's there in black and white, you're like, well, we've clearly got a problem. But you've got to keep going back to it. And if you don't keep going back to it, the rest of your staff are like, well, what's the point in this process? Because they're not now following that, and I'm not following this, and actually half this check sheet we don't do. So let's just go through and tick it, and we'll move on. So, and then that doesn't work. So whatever you do put in place, you need to consistently be going back, looking at it, and checking in a nice way that your staff are actually doing what you think they're doing.
I've run out of questions now, but we're coming to an end anyway. Has anyone got any questions in the audience I want to ask the panel at all? And I'll get Toby to run the mic round. Any questions up there? Any hands up?
Can't even see.
No.
Can't see fuck all. There's one.
Go on, Tobes.
Cheers.
Thanks for the advice so far. At what point did you guys feel, right, I'm in a position now where I can sort of step away and let the company run itself?
Never.
Yeah.
For me, it was never really a definitive moment. It sort of just happened. And then you look back and you think, I used to do that, but I'm not doing it anymore. It was really strange. And you find yourself, you've just got more time. I know Dave was on about get a moment and that's it, it's done. It wasn't like that for me. It just happened. It just transitioned, and then I just found stuff was being done. Even though I put it in place that it was going to be done, but it was just that moment. It was like, great.
And is that just like a financial thing, or was it just like, actually the roles have been filled now, I don't need to be here anymore? Or were you like, look, we've got, I'm making enough money where I can sit back, it's kind of running itself now? Or were you hands-on until?
It was more the roles things, and I think that everybody's alluded to it. The amount of admin tasks that you do that you don't think you do is unbelievable. We did an exercise where we just gave, like solicitors and accountants, they do charge the time out by quarter of an hour. We give them a timesheet for a week and say, right, for every quarter of an hour that you spend, just write on what you're doing. And you got the top half of the sheet was part of their role, and the bottom half of the sheet was not part of their role. And the amount of stuff that is in the bottom half of the sheet that they spent doing in a week was unbelievable. And that really opened your eyes to go back on the whole process, revisit the roles and responsibilities and do all that, because it will shock you. And I think that's pretty much what everybody's said at some point in the journey.
Yeah, I think if I was to answer that, I would say it's like you don't know what you don't know. So it changes when someone tells you something that you think, shit, that sounds important, I better start doing that. And you start doing it. And then when someone goes, yeah, but who's going to do all that admin you were doing? You're like, I don't know, this guy can do it. Or this girl can do it. Or it like Daren said, it's not a line in the sand like, I'm going to work on the business now. Because most people, myself included, would have been in a position where they're like, well, I already am working on the business. Like, what else am I supposed to do? I don't just suddenly, there's not anything I'm thinking that I should be doing that I haven't, I just don't know the stuff. So then when I got mentors that said, you do these 7 things, you sell the company for 100 million quid, it was like, maybe I should do those 7 things instead of like going in and doing admin. And the rest of the stuff just dissipates into the team. Like, it just happens naturally. If I sat with you and told you something really that you listened to and you thought, shit, we need to do that, you just go and do it. Whatever you were going to do is just going to get done by somebody else. So it just happens naturally, I think, like you say.
I think that wraps it up for the World-Class Agency panel. Thanks everyone for coming on stage, and give a round of applause for everyone.
Listening to this Estate Agency X podcast, can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check, whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed, and then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.